parents were Clarence and Ethel Blanchard, who were one of the earlier pioneer families in the area. Sarah?
Everybody remembers.
This is Sarah Brent Wilson, and she born and raised here, and she's our third one. Now, do you want this just on your apron? Or
Oh, you know, I'm so put together here as it is. I'm prepared for everything.
Okay.
So, first of all, Imogene, I must commend you on your dress. She made it.
Oh.
And I want you to know that in home ec class, when I was a sophomore in high school, my sewing project was a dress. My sister Sharon wore it because it was too big for me. And so I decided that sewing was not my thing, even though my mother was very disappointed in me. But I thought, I'm out in the fields with my father after that. And did you make your shawl? Wow. That's wonderful. So, you know, I don't know how many of you have read the article I wrote, but I talk about my name. And so that's the first thing I want to get settled, is that forevermore I am asked about my name. And so it took me 47 years to claim my name, Sarah, S-A-R-A-H. And then the other thing about my name is, well, as you read, it wasn't my parents' choice. It was the doctor who delivered me. And so consequently, I believe my middle name should have been, Rose, because my grandmother's name was Rose. My mother's middle name was Rose. And my godmother, Barbara Rose Knudsen. And believe me, if there was ever a godmother who was conscious of her role as a godmother, it was Barbara. So I sat here at the table many times because of Barbara. She wouldn't let me sit, be idle. So the other thing I want to say in regard to being on this court, thank you, is the fact that how much I realize Sheridan has shaped my life in so many different ways. And connections are important to me. And I think we need to be sharing our stories. And that doesn't happen much anymore. So I just want to say a few stories. First of all, my parents, and many of you know them, and for the most part, people either loved my mother or they kept their distance from her because she was so outspoken. My dad was very patient, and a lot of the things I learned were from him. Simple, sensible things. And believe me, if I felt they didn't have value for me today, I'd be the first one to discard them. And so, the other thing I remember about being here in Sheridan are what a close-knit family everybody was. You know, it was not uncommon for the extended families to meet after church at somebody's home. And in fact, I stopped briefly at the museum and saw those kind of family pictures. My family was wonderful. And so the aunts, I remember Aunt Nell Brandt, Barbara's mother. That was in the days when there were magazine sales. And that woman bought more magazines for me, and I had more prizes that I've never had since. You know, she was amazing. Then who else? My Aunt Lou Latham sent me a box of shelled walnuts and filberts when I was back in Watertown, Wisconsin. that was such a gift. To think that she would take time to send me those walnuts, shelled, yay. And then there was my dear Aunt Ada, Arlene's mom. And Nancy and I, my sister, would take piano lessons from Mr. Gordon Pratt's, the choir director at school, band, from his wife, just across the street. Now, did Aunt Ada complain about having those pesky nieces around every week? Not on your life. She just took time out for us, and we each took our turns with our lessons. And by this time, Arlene would come home from the bank, and so we'd get to hear her stories about what happened at the bank that day. She worked with Mr. Scroggins, Burl Swales, and Mr. Hebert. So that's quite a history. What else? Well, do any of you remember Pastor Mathiasen? He was Norwegian Lutheran pastor here at our church. I remember him walking down the street and greeting everyone. And his wife was Danish. And so every Christmas, they would invite us over after, actually it was New Year's Eve, so that we could bring in the new year. And he loved his model trains. So we were delighted with that, and then have refreshments. And she made Fatima, which is Danish, but us kids call them pig's ears. And then we take great delight in eating them, of course. So there are so many things that I remember about growing up here, and it's really remarkable. Phil Sheridan days for me were very important. I helped with the chicken barbecue last evening, and Pastor Don Moon, who's at the Assembly of God Church in Amity, and grew up in Bolson, I think. We were talking about this. He remembers the same that I do about all these different little communities having floats in the parade. Mill Creek, Gooseneck, Walston, Gopher. Who did I miss? Anyway, they were there. And it was just remarkable, the creativity and the camaraderie. And, you know, it was, I don't know anything like it to this day. Now, I also have a twin, and she is Marcia Bryant Chapman, and she can tell me more stories about what it was like for our mothers being in that hospital. I said, Marcia, how come you know all these things? And I guess it's because she was number one, and I was 5, you know, down the line. Ooh, by then it's old hat, right? So, there are plenty of things to remember, and I feel like I've come full circle because I was on the junior court when I was in 3rd grade. Boy, did I get mileage out of my dress. I wore it for my oldest sister's wedding. I wore it to dance the maypole. And guess who was queen that year? My sister Charlotte. And so I had to curtsy to my sister. Talk about a humiliating experience. Well, I don't know. I'm glad she's not here to hear me say that. But that was a little, but I was just a little taken aback by that. And then I got to wear it in the parade, and that was that. So that poor dress finally got retired, but it was wonderful experiences. Oh, me. What have I forgotten? I could go on for the rest of the afternoon. But, the other thing I want to mention is, I could talk about dresses. I asked Marge Goodrod, now where do I get a dress? And she referred me to the Yamhill Valley Heritage Center. I have to get this straight because I thought it was in Lafayette. Here I thought I was up to date, but I sure found out. So I went there, and I want you all to know how that staff bent over to help me find a dress with an apron and a bonnet. As you can tell, I'm not bonding with the bonnet. And I need this for protection from the sun. Hooray, the sun was out today. So this is my thank you to Sheridan. It's been quite a journey, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And please share your stories.